Hey friend, I'm Danielle Damrell, and I am so grateful that you're listening to the Created Worthy podcast. This show is all about honoring the life stories of women from different ages, beliefs, backgrounds, and experiences. Everyone's got a story, and instead of getting stuck in the trap of unworthiness, this is a safe place for stories to be shared. On this show, we chat about the transformative power of creative processing too, and how we can utilize our God-given creativity with intention to heal, grow, find joy, create simplicity in the midst of our chaotic lives. So pull up a seat at our table, because we are all created worthy. Hello, welcome back to the Created Worthy podcast. Today, I am joined by another worthy warrior, Kim Anderson. Kim is on a quest to heal the world through writing, one woman at a time. She has a knack for making people feel safe so they can be their truest selves. Kim has led her life from a place of fierce loyalty to herself. By learning to listen and follow her heart, she has made many brave decisions in her life. From being a corporate buyer to middle school teacher turned entrepreneur, Kim has learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from what isn't serving you, no matter what anyone else thinks. Kim loves to tell the truth. Amen, sister. If you are looking for someone to help you clean out your closet and tell you what doesn't work for you, Kim is your girl. If you want someone to ask you the hard question, Kim's your girl. But mostly, if you want to help you discover the healing power of writing, Kim's your girl. Kim, thank you so much for joining me on the Created Worthy podcast. I can't wait for my listeners to hear even more about your real life story.
Well, thanks for having me, Danielle. I'm honored to be here and share a little bit about my story.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I want to jump straight into the cows. That's really what I want to do. But before we get into that, can you take us back to where you started off in life? Where are you from? And maybe just paint a little bit of a picture of what life was like for you growing up.
Yep, I sure can. So I was born and raised in a middle-sized town in Wisconsin. Let's see, that would be northwest Wisconsin. And I lived in the same house my whole life until I left for college. I was an undercover police officer, and my mom was a Catholic school teacher. So I come
What?
from, yeah,
I
it
had
was
no idea. That's so wild.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. That as I've gotten older, I've really learned how my parents' careers actually really affected the person that I am. And both of those things, being in law enforcement and being raised in the Catholic religion, both come with really, really clear lines that are black and white. And so I've had to do a lot of navigating how that has impacted my thinking and the person that I am, and then how I want to, move forward from that. So after high school, I moved 3 hours south to Madison and went to school at the University of Wisconsin. And I was very determined to not be like my mom, not be a teacher.
Mm.
And so I got a business degree, and then that didn't feel right. So then I launched into the next thing, but I'm sure we'll get there.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So you went to University of Wisconsin. What was your degree in? Was it just
So my degree
business
is
administration?
technically international relations, which is a
Oh,
really weird degree. It's like business mixed with politics mixed with anthropology. Um,
interesting.
but I do have a love for different cultures, and my Madison doesn't have a Spanish minor, so I had a Spanish major but didn't actually complete that. And that's what I really wanted to work in, that field where it wasn't just businesses, but it was world relationship kind of stuff through business.
Yeah, that's so interesting. But you were like, at what point after graduating were you like, yeah, business is, that's not, it's not.
I mean, most people that get an international relations degree study abroad.
Okay.
And I didn't do that. And I, so I don't feel like I was really set up to have a career in that field because I hadn't made any of the connections. And plus, it's such a liberal arts, it's really a liberal arts degree. It's not really businessy. I'm not even really sure what people with it do. And clearly, I didn't have a good advisor. So, anyway, so I ended up, I had met Matt by that time and we got married 2 years out of college. So I wasn't at that point, I was like, I'm not moving to Spain or something. But so I got a job as a corporate buyer, which basically means like I worked for this company that it's weird. They have catalogs that sell supplies to like schools. And
What?
if you teach home ec and you need some plastic fake food for your class,
Yeah.
we sell it. And they sell all kinds of medical, they also do medical stuff. Anyway, so I was like sitting in a cubicle at a computer looking at a green screen with like numbers all day. Oh, we're low on inventory in this. I'll order that. And it was like, I was
Like
dying.
data. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I was like, I can't do this. This is
yeah.
so, I need to have a job where I feel like I'm making a difference in the world. And this is not it.
Yeah.
And so then I had enough conversations with myself to be okay becoming a teacher because I knew that's what my calling was.
Yeah.
Like I knew that all along, but I just wanted to have a different path than my mom. And so I found a graduate program that would give me a master's in education and like a short, I think it was like a 2 year program. During that time, I also had my first kid.
Wow.
Um,
During your master's program?
yep. Yep. I had him in September and I was like finishing, I had 1 or 2 classes that semester and then I student taught in the spring and then started teaching for real the next fall. So
Wow.
it was like really big changes and that was one of the best decisions I've ever made to follow my heart in that way. I was having a job that mattered
What made
and I go ahead.
what made you decide to teach middle school?
I didn't, okay, when I was getting so in Wisconsin, you have to choose either like our licensure is like first to eighth grade or secondary, which is high school. And if you do high school, you have to specialize in whatever your subject is.
Hmm.
And I went into that program really thinking that I wanted to teach high school social studies. And the really fortunate part of this story is that because I had my bachelor's degree, I could be a substitute teacher in Wisconsin.
Mm,
And so during my first semester, I was also subbing pretty much full time. And I knew very quickly, I got a couple high school calls and I was like, yeah, I do not want to do this. Like they're not teachable really anymore.
yeah. Yeah,
Like they're
it's a
mm,
different gifting.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I quickly realized it wasn't for me. I also had several days where I taught kindergarten and I was also like, this is not for me. I knew I didn't want to do little kids, but I was also like, what in the world is even happening? How do you even get anything taught? I just
Yeah.
felt like I was
Just
wiping
chaos.
noses, tying shoes, giving hugs all day long.
Yeah.
And then my middle school experiences, because middle school is probably one of the, like looking back at my childhood, probably one of the hardest times of my life.
Yeah.
I hated it. So
Same.
to think that I would like teaching it was, I just didn't think I would. But I found that it was like this magical age where like we could have real conversations. And I'm a pretty sarcastic person. Middle schoolers are really sarcastic. So that really jived. I felt like I could still make a difference and that I could still, yeah, just like connect with them because for whatever reason, as part of who God made me to be, I am a very easy person to connect to for people.
You
And
are.
not necessarily like connect as in like deep connections, but like people feel really safe with me usually. And
I felt
creating the yeah, go
so safe with you when I met you that my tights literally fell to the ground.
ahead. That wasn't just me. But
Okay,
yes.
true. No, but yeah, I even just me. So backstory real fast, just to let people know where I met you. I met you at a conference that I was coordinating last year, so almost exactly a year ago.
Hmm.
And the funny story within that is that I was doing a keynote of sorts, and Kim was walking up to me afterwards to come talk to me about unapologetic writing. And I was teaching about creative processing, and they are very similar.
Hmm.
The heartbeat of them is very similar. And as she was walking up, my tights literally fell straight to my ankles. Like, how do tights fall off your body? Spanx. Let me tell you, it spanks.
Oh my
But
gosh.
that
You handled it with such grace. Oh, it was awesome.
Oh my gosh, it was so funny. And I am like so grateful that it was you who was like walking up to me because we have bonded. One, it's just always fun to have something funny to bond over. But then
Mhm.
we bonded so much that weekend just talking about what you do and what your thoughts are and what your visions were. And just it has been such a joy and honor to get to know you. And you definitely immediately made me feel just comfortable. You understood what I was trying to teach. Like you understood the
Mhm.
power of creating and specifically writing to a level that a lot of people just can't, and that's okay
Mhm.
because it's not necessarily their calling, but the teaching aspect of it's just so clearly a gift of yours to make people feel seen and heard in conversation with you. Anytime I'm in conversation with you, I'm like, oh my gosh, like she's listening, she sees me. And then she is, if you guys don't follow her on LinkedIn, we'll have it in the show notes. But her LinkedIn posts, she writes how she talks. And it's just so insightful and brilliant and also simple. And so I just
Mhm.
want to like affirm that in you, Kim, that I'm sure middle school kids even could feel that in you. And that's why they were
Mhm.
able to so authentically connect with you.
Because I was the teacher that was like, time out on learning about grammar. You guys, we're going to talk about how to take a shower, and you can't just get wet. Like you have to use
Yes.
soap and you have to put it in
Yes.
your armpits
And you've
and you
got to
have to
like
wash your butt.
scrub. Yeah, you've got to pull the butt cheeks apart and
Yeah.
scrub your actual
And
butt.
I'm sure if somebody would have walked in on the days that I had those conversations, they would have been like, what in the world? But like, I was just real with them
Yeah.
because we're all just humans.
Yes. And honestly, I don't know why, but I think that those fundamentals sometimes get missed in
Hmm.
parenting. And because I know for myself, I was never taught how to shower correctly or like,
Hmm.
how often should you shower and why does deodorant matter? And if I can't smell myself, does that mean that you can still smell me?
Oh,
All of those different
right.
things. So having teachers, I had a few teachers that were very honest and real about like hygiene or just the
Hmm.
realities of life, right? Talking about
Hmm.
sex or different
Hmm.
things. Like that is what made them my favorite teachers.
Hmm.
And because
Yeah,
they actually cared about me as a human, not just as another
right.
student.
Yeah. Yep. It's not that hard to do because it's just who we all are.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
yeah.
At what point did you step away from teaching and what kind of prompted that decision?
Oh, it was building. I can only speak for Wisconsin, but we were really heading in the direction of teaching to tests and really starting to I would sit in my teacher meetings and we wouldn't talk about the kids. We would talk about the numbers. And I was like, kids are not numbers, like they're people
Mm,
and it matters a lot. And so I just was starting to have this dissonance between what my job had become and what I wanted it to be and what it used to
yeah.
be, truthfully. And so I felt like I was reaching burnout. And then COVID happened.
Mm,
And honestly, teaching during COVID was like the most beautiful thing because my kids would just show up on Zoom and we would play bingo. And this was in the very early weeks before we
yeah.
could even come up with a plan. For in my district, it was like the first couple weeks while we were figuring stuff out were optional, or at least the first week or two. but the kids that showed up were like, Mrs. Anderson, let me show you play. Can I play my drums for you? Mrs. Anderson, I'm taking apart my
Oh,
grandma's washing machine. Can I show you how I'm fixing it? It was like I got to really, I was like, oh yes, you're people. This is my, I get to see you instead of seeing you through this thing that I'm trying to make you do and then test you on. And it
yeah.
was just magical. At the same time, in my personal life, I had signed, I was a runner. I'm not a runner anymore, but I was. I had signed up to do a running and writing retreat that was supposed to take place out in Bend, Oregon in May of that year. Obviously got canceled, but the woman that was running it hooked us up with the teacher that was coming to lead the writing. And she leads a practice called wild writing, and her name's Lori Wagner, and she had the foresight to know that like what we're entering into right now, starting to experience with the pandemic, like we're going to want some records of this. We're going to want our human experiences documented. And so she put out a free 27 days of wild writing, and they were videos that we would get every day and then do this writing practice. And it just cracked me open in the best way. I was like, this, I've done therapy, I've done all the things. And I'm like, this got to my heart. Like
Mm,
it allowed me a place to just like really be myself. And also it was so easy.
yeah.
And then Lori, so I kept writing with her through like September. And then she put out an application for her teacher training for a cohort. And I applied, and she only takes 10 people from like the world. And I got selected. And so it's like all these things just kept kind of falling into place. Like it
Yeah.
was, and I went through that, and the teaching situation just kept getting exponentially more difficult for me. And right about the time that my teacher training was wrapping up, I decided that I was going to be done teaching. And honestly, that was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made because I love teaching. I still do. I love teaching. I love kids. I'm good at it,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't like that situation wasn't working.
Yeah.
And in reality, what I after I came out of it, I really realized like I need to grieve that. I didn't necessarily want to stop being a teacher, but the way that it was working was taking so much from me as a human. I was coming home just like a shell of myself at the end of the day. And at that point,
Mhm.
my oldest son or my oldest kid was a freshman in high school. And I looked at my husband and I'm like, we've got 4 years left with him. I can't do this. Like, I can't be this version of myself for the last 4 years that we have with him at home. That's not fair to anybody. Yeah. And so I resigned and just bit the bullet and was like, I guess I'm creating my own company. Here we go.
Yep. Time to be an entrepreneur. That's
And
usually
the
how it
unapologetic
happens.
pen. Yeah. The unapologetic pen launched in that July. It's quick.
Wow. Yeah. So was that last year, last July?
No, that would have been 21,
Okay.
July
So
of
it
21.
3 years.
So 3.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us before we jump into the unapologetic pen, and I want you
hmm
to tell us about your journey just becoming an entrepreneur.
hmm
We know that there's going to be ups and downs, but I also want you to share. I know you have 2 kids, and
I
I
do.
also know that you have a heart for moms. And so I'd love for you to just give us a little bit of your journey with motherhood and, yeah, whatever you feel called to
Yeah.
share with.
I think, and this is a really interesting thing about motherhood, etc. I think an outsider would look at my journey with motherhood and be like, clearly done an amazing job. Your kids are awesome and they're successful at anything they do. And the backstory to all that is that it hasn't been easy. I had postpartum depression and I don't really remember any of it. I know that in the early days, my husband called my mom and was like, you have to come here because Kim is not okay. And that's when that's my that was my start to my mental health journey, but also the start of anti-anxiety medicine. And that's something that I've really tried to work through all during parenthood, because I wouldn't say that I wasn't an anxious person before parenthood, but it definitely like exponentially made it louder in my life. But I have two kids. He's not a senior anymore. He graduated. He's
Wow.
19. Yeah. And my daughter's 17. She's a junior. I think because I had those kind of experiences early on in my parenthood with my mental health, I think it really helped me be on the lookout for that in my kids and navigate how I parented them a little differently, in that I was just really open about everything. And so that's how our family has operated with, if you're having a big feeling, it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to feel it, that kind of thing.
Mm.
My daughter got diagnosed with dyslexia in third grade, and her struggles, well, and that was a time, dyslexia is a really weird disability because it's not legally recognized in all states. And I really had to advocate to get her the help she needed. So after we navigated the dyslexia path, then I still hadn't found this writing, but as my son got into high school, we really we're at this place where like school didn't fit him. Like he's like an outdoor kid, he's a farming kid, he's a hands-on, can't sit still kid. And so we really had to rethink what our definitions of success were and what that looked like for our family, because my husband and I both, like, we were both straight A students, got to go to or got into Big Ten school, like had hung our hats, so to say, on our accomplishments. And we realized we didn't want to do that for our kids. We wanted to be proud of their accomplishments, but it's okay if their accomplishments weren't academic. And that was a big mind shift for us. And so really parenting through all of this was a lot of like also learning about myself. And I think that's one of the things that I really love about unapologetic writing, is that it allows me the space to look at the parts of myself that can also help me understand other people better.
Mm. Yes. I'm like taking mad notes about that because I'm like, yes, learned that parenting taught you a lot about yourself. That is such a simple but profound revelation because I
Hmm.
think a lot of times, especially when we're in the throes of parenting little kids,
Hmm.
we get stuck in that day-to-day chaos of just, oh my gosh, like you said about being a pre-kindergarten teacher, like
Hmm.
wiping butts, wiping faces, giving hugs, de-escalating drama about somebody calling
Hmm.
them a poopy head or something like that. And
Totally.
sometimes it can just feel like we're in that like mode of I'm just exhausted. I'm just trying to get through.
Hmm.
I'm in that surviving, not
Surviving.
thriving.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And now my daughter's getting a little bit older. She's 9 now. We still have a whole lot of tantrums. She's special in her own little way. But just hearing you talk about how you've learned a lot about yourself through this process of unapologetic writing, and specifically when it comes to parenting, is a really
Hmm.
good reminder to me and to any moms listening that we have to slow down,
Hmm.
even in the thick of the really busy, chaotic, butt wiping times of life. We
We
got to
do.
slow down and don't miss. And that's how we don't miss those moments, right? There is going to be a day. And I'm sure, Kim, you've probably experienced this as your son has recently graduated, your daughter's in the last couple of
Hmm.
years, where you're like, oh, if I could just go back. I've heard this from so many moms. If I could just go back and squeeze my 5-year-old one more time,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
But that's
totally.
what we get to learn from you. That's what we get to learn from moms who have gone before us. And that's the gift that you give us as well. And then you give us a way to process that through unapologetic writing, right? And that's just something that I really want to highlight is whether it's parenting or your marriage or your childhood or joy or you've lost who you are, who, whatever it is, if you don't slow down, whether you have kids or not, if you're just busy and you don't ever stop and check in with yourself, you're gonna miss life, the one
Hmm.
life that you have.
It's true. And I think sometimes people have this idea that like what stopping or what slowing down looks like has to be this really big thing. And
Right.
it doesn't. I walk a lot. My slowing down often looks like a 10-minute walk to the end of the road and back between calls because I need to move my body and I need to get some fresh air. My my writing journeys were designed to be done like in the carpool line while you're waiting at pickup or while you're waiting for soccer practice to
Yeah.
get done. Like we don't have to have this like giant commitment to be able to take care of ourselves and slow down a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And in our pre-interview notes, I always ask, what are your primary creative processing methods? And you said walking and
Mhm.
unapologetic writing, of course, but not at the same time. We had to make that clarification.
I
Kim
did.
is not walking and writing because that would
No,
be some, man, one day I do hope they figure out. I guess they have those treadmill desks now, but no, to
I
be
don't think
quite
I could do
honest, I
it.
don't think I could do
Mm-mm.
it either. I have a hard time watching a Netflix show and like walking on the treadmill.
Me too,
Yeah.
totally.
Oh my gosh. So let's jump into, for those that maybe have not ever listened to Created Worthy before, creative processing it's actually very simple. It's just activating your creative mind to process any certain intention. Writing, I believe, is the gateway to our subconscious. What Kim teaches is unapologetic writing, and I want her to get into really what that means in her journey over the last 4 years, because we've just listened to how she got to this point. But I really want to encourage you, if you're listening, to lean in to whatever your creative gifting is, but push yourself to write. Listen with open ears, even if you think you're not a writer, because
Mhm.
Kim and I hear it all the time. I am not creative. I do not know how to write. I am not this. I am not this. But what if you are? How do you know if you are if you have never tried? So, Kim,
Mhm.
can you talk to us a little bit about your journey to starting the unapologetic pen?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, it all started during the pandemic and then just one thing led to another and the right timing of me being able to start this business. And you said in the intro, my mission is to heal the world through writing. And I really think it's that simple. And that's one of my values in life, but also values in this business is to keep it simple because when we start to complicate things, it's when people start to not do them. So the whole process of unapologetic writing is very simple. You literally need paper and a pen, and that's it. I sometimes tell the women in my small groups, it's okay if you are showing up in your pajamas. And it's okay if you're like sitting in your car in between appointments. It doesn't matter. Like it's just the act of showing up that really matters. And it doesn't have to be polished. I have two different ways that I offer unapologetic writing to people, and that's through a small group. We meet via Zoom, and then through some digital courses called Writing Journeys. And they both have the same process. One is just the digital journeys are meant to be like you can do them on your own time because as moms, like we don't have the same window of time open on a consistent basis to be able to maybe to commit to a virtual class. The prompting that I give my writers is to write messy, like lower the bar. That's what Lori, my
Mm.
teacher, says. Just lower the bar. Keep your pen moving. That's all that matters. And then I guide you through the process of how to do that. And often it's always through prompts from poetry. And that's how I land my writers is that I read a poem and then I pick a couple of lines from it that we call our jump off line, similar to a prompt, but also different. And I like it because my experiences with prompted writing are very much in the vein of like leading you to write about a certain thing. So like some of the prompted journals that I've attempted to work with have been like, what's your favorite memory about childhood? Or
Yeah.
tell me how you're feeling today. And right, it just leads to natural filtering. And the whole point and the whole goal of unapologetic writing is to drop the filter. It doesn't matter if what you're writing makes any sense. It doesn't matter if you can read your handwriting. It doesn't matter if you start writing about what your family did this weekend and you end up writing about chocolate chip cookies your grandma made. Like it doesn't, it the direction doesn't matter. And I think that's the permission that helps people realize they are writers. They're just not maybe the type of writers that like school taught them that a writer was.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my
And
gosh,
so
that's so good.
just dropping the expectations and giving yourself the permission to just write all those things that are just going through your head. And
Mhm.
so a prompt that I'll just give you a couple examples. One of the prompts that I liked that I love is this is a woman who, and it's interesting because you're writing about yourself, but you're writing in second person. So this is a woman who loves a cup of coffee after lunch. This is a woman who wears slippers from September to May. This is a woman who has done triathlons but doesn't run anymore. You're just writing about yourself very naturally, but doesn't have to make sense. I also love the line, um, more of this, please. And so when we're wanting to write about gratitude, that's super. What do you want more of in your life? Everybody can talk about that. Good hair days, more of this, please. Days when somebody else makes supper, more of this, please. Days when, how about nights when I sleep all the way through the night? It's funny to write that as a parent, but
Yeah.
more of this, please. And so it's really stream of consciousness writing, learning how to hear your own voice again, because as women, we also spend so much time taking care of others that sometimes we just don't even know what our own voice sounds like anymore because we only listen to other people's voices.
Yeah.
And so giving ourselves time to just learn how to hear ourselves again, hear what our actual thoughts are, not what like our logistical mom brain thoughts are.
Yeah. So good. It's That's amazing. I wrote down some of your jump off lines and I'm going to put them in
Mm,
the show notes because those, like, I am excited to try that. I'm excited to do that. And I love, love, love how you explained the purpose of unapologetic writing is truly to be unfiltered.
hmm
That's true creative processing. That's true healing in your
hmm
soul. Is to say, I don't care who reads, I'm not concerned about anyone reading this. I'm concerned about writing for me,
Right.
about writing unapologetically my truth,
hmm
regardless of what the world is saying, what the media is saying, what Netflix show I watched, what my mom has said I'm going to be, what my teacher said I was never going to be. None of that matters when you put your
hmm
pen to the paper
hmm
and just let go
hmm
and create.
And I think that it's powerful no matter what we're writing about, but I think especially in motherhood, because I think our society is getting better at talking about the hard parts of parenting and relationships, and mental health. But I think there are still things like I remember writing the time I found this writing, my kids were in middle school, high school. So I didn't have this in the time when they were toddlers, but I was reflecting back and I was writing about, I remember not wanting to play with my kids. Like I hated playing. I don't want to freaking play Barbies. I am not that was not me as a mom, but I didn't ever feel like I could say that out loud to anybody. What kind of
Yeah.
mom are you? You don't want to play with your kids? But that was not enjoyable for me.
Mhm.
But I could give myself permission to stop holding on to that, maybe
Mhm.
even the guilt, and I didn't like playing Barbies with my kids, but I made sure they had lots of opportunities to play outside and play in the rain and get muddy and all kinds of things that other parents would
Yeah.
be like, don't do that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
not comparing, but just it's okay to say that stuff out loud,
Yeah. Even to yourself, to
even to
God,
yourself.
to
Yes.
whoever.
Yes.
Yeah, let it
Yes.
go. Don't let it sit there and eat at you. And I'm not, I don't want to go into all the depths of Catholic shame. I actually, the episode, I believe that's coming out right before yours is with somebody who also grew up Catholic. And she talks, we talk a little bit about that as well. But shame is a real thing. And especially,
Hmm.
unfortunately, in Catholic school. Did you go to Catholic school?
Fortunately, I did not.
Okay. I
So
did
my
go to
mom taught
Catholic
in
school.
one, but I did not attend Catholic school.
I did go to Catholic school, but even just growing up in the Catholic Church, like any of these religions, I would say that say if you don't do this is what's going to happen. You're going to
Hmm.
hell. If you
Hmm.
don't practice in this specific way, you are bad. And so many of us get this, we carry the shame of being bad, even
Hmm.
when we don't want to play Barbies with our kid,
Hmm.
or we don't want to do the dishes and cook every night,
Hmm.
or we don't want to think the mainstream way that the world
Hmm.
is saying that you should think. And that's gotta stop because that's what's, I
Hmm.
think, causing so many of these identity issues is we're not giving ourselves a chance to figure out who we really are and what you
Hmm.
really believe.
Hmm.
And that's
We're
if
not given the chance, but
we're not
we also
taking the
have
chance.
we also have fear instilled in us of what if we
True.
do. And that's I'm still on I'm still healing from all of that. And it's
Yeah.
hard.
And that healing
I
journey is not, it's not like something you accomplish, right? I love that you say
Mm-mm.
to heal the world through writing. It's like healing the world through writing. Healing is something that is ongoing. I don't know a
Hmm.
single person, even somebody who's in remission from cancer. I don't know that they would even say that they're quote unquote healed as much as they'd say, I'm healing. I'm healing.
And yeah. And I think it's important to call this out too, because there have been people that have come across my path and been like, what do you mean you're healing? Like, was something wrong? And just because you're healing doesn't mean that something's wrong. I'm just trying to become the most whole version of myself.
Right.
And
So good.
we, because of everything that's placed on us from the time that we're born, even before that, we have to, it's just like becoming who I fully am is what healing means to me.
Yeah. You know what I see a parallel that just came up in my mind is the parallel between healing and learning, being a healer and being a learner. Like learning is, at least for me, I believe that leaders are learners. I believe that learning is something that we should always strive to do, no matter what age you are, no matter what background you
Mhm.
have, no matter what level of education you've come from or had exposure to. Learning is just, it's a heart position almost.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's what healing
It's a
is
willingness, it's a willingness to say, I'm not staying where I am, right?
yeah, there's something
There's
more.
a room. Yeah, there's something more.
I love that.
Mhm.
Okay. This has been so good. I could literally talk to you for hours and hours and hours and hours, and we will. We'll continue to talk. But I want to give the listeners an opportunity to connect with you and for you to tell them what where they can connect with you and what you've got going on for them. So if you could tell us what's coming up next in your life and business and then let them know how they can find and connect with you, that would be wonderful.
Sure. My website is the best place to find out a little bit more about me and about what I offer. You can find that at theunapologeticpen.com. I'm also active on LinkedIn. And Danielle will put that in the show notes because I don't know what my LinkedIn handle is. I think it's
I
Kim
got
Dash
you.
Anderson.
All of these links will be in the show notes, including the
Yeah.
link to her free quiz.
Yes. And that is one of the best, like 'cause people will come to me and be like, I don't know where to start. If I don't, A, I don't think I'm a writer, and B, I don't even know where to start with this. And so there is a quiz on my website that will ask you some fun questions. I think there's 10, and it will lead you to the digital course, digital journey, writing journey that best aligns with where you are right now. And so those are ongoing. You can enter a writing journey at any time. They're meant to be 6 weeks if you do one a week. So they're not a huge commitment because it's scary to make a big commitment to something that you don't have experience with. So they're meant to be for busy moms and women who just want to maybe do a little experimenting with creative processing through writing, as Danielle said.
Mhm.
Just figure out what that feels like to put your pen to paper and try it out.
So I would say prompt people to join your email list to
Okay,
stay formed, stay or to join your email list through either taking the quiz or going to your website, and then that you will send out information on when your next writing groups are open and they
got it.
are and any special promotions that you do with the writing journeys or something like that.
Okay,
Like just
okay,
prompting them to
okay.
give you their email.
So the best way to stay in the loop and find out when my next small groups are launching and when I'm running any promotions on my digital journeys would be to join my email list. And you can do that directly through my website and also by taking the quiz. And that will get you automatically on my email list. And then you'll just be in the loop. And when something exciting's coming out, I'll let you know.
Yes, and the unapologetic, what do we call them? I the unapologetic journeys, but like being a part
Mhm.
of the community, the unapologetic community. There we go. There it
Mhm.
is such an incredible place to be. Like even how Kim writes her emails. It's just her LinkedIn, simple, Kim.
Mhm.
Email, simple, Kim. Just so good and always inspiring and always challenging as well, but in a way
Mhm.
that doesn't feel like you want to go and hide, but rather like you want to know more. So,
Mhm.
Kim, I am
Thank you,
just
Danielle.
so grateful and honored to have heard more of your story here today. You have been such a joy and blessing in my life since meeting you almost a year ago.
Mm.
You've worked really hard this year while also prioritizing your own family and values and modeling what it really looks like to walk in alignment. I have no doubt that you have and will continue to heal and change people's lives through teaching them the power of unapologetic writing. I can't wait to see the ways that you continue to simply create going forward. Thank you for exemplifying authenticity in this wild world. Keep being you because you, my friend, are created worthy.
Hey, friend, thanks for listening to my story on the Created Worthy podcast. I hope that you know that you actually are a writer. I hope that you know that you aren't alone in parenthood or being a woman. I hope you know that you are loved. You've got this.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to the Created Worthy podcast. I hope that today's show resonated with you. And if it did, can you do me a huge favor and go leave a 5-star review? This helps more listeners find the show and it expands the reach of the stories and concepts that are shared here. All the links and guest information are in the show notes. And if you're on social media, come hang out with me. You can find the Created Worthy podcast on both Instagram and Facebook, or come follow along with my personal IG page where I just share more about the real, sometimes messy life of your fellow worthy warrior. Can't wait to talk to you soon, friend. And don't forget, we are all created worthy.